I've always believed in the idea of a happy marriage, the kind where you grow old together, share everything good and bad, and come out stronger on the other side, at least. That's what I thought we had. Looking back, our life together had been perfect, at least on the surface. I still remember our wedding day, how I couldn't stop smiling as I walked down the aisle. His face lit up when he saw me. We made vows that day. Promises to never let anything come between us, for better or worse, we said. And I meant it, every word. I thought we were solid, untouchable. We had our small squabbles, sure, little things that came up from time to time, who left the towel on the bathroom floor or forgot to take out the trash, but nothing that would ever break us. But lately, things had been different. It started with the long hours at work. I knew he was working late, pushing himself at the office. He'd always been dedicated to his career, and I admired that about him. I didn't mind it at first, I understood. But I couldn't ignore the small changes, little shifts in his demeanor. He'd come home later, always tired, distracted. His smile wasn't as wide anymore, and his eyes weren't the same. There was a distance there, an emptiness that wasn't there before. "Did you have a good day?" I asked as he walked in the door, hoping for the usual warmth. "Yeah, just tired," he'd reply, his tone flat. I'd nod, trying not to let it bother me. I'd always tried to focus on the positives, the good moments, like how we'd laugh over dinner, how we'd curl up on the couch at night. Me tucked into his side as we watched our favorite shows. We were still us, right? Still happy, still in love, but I couldn't ignore it. The tension between us had grown, and I found myself second-guessing everything. One night, as I was making dinner, I asked him again, "What's going on with you? You've been different lately." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he just stood there, staring at his phone, the glow of the screen lighting up his face. I could feel my heart start to beat a little faster, and not tightening in my chest. He finally looked up, his eyes avoiding mine. "Nothing, just work, you." "No," he said, a little too quickly. But it didn't sit right with me. I knew him. I knew when he was being evasive, and I wasn't sure why he felt the need to lie to me about something so simple. I told myself it was probably just stress, maybe I was overreacting. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. My mind was racing as I tried to keep my emotions in check. I kept asking myself, am I imagining this? Or is there something going on that I don't know about? It wasn't until later that week, when I noticed his phone buzzing constantly, that the doubts started to creep in. He was in the shower, and I shouldn't have done it. But I grabbed his phone. I knew his password, the same one he'd always used. My hands shook as I unlocked it. The first few texts were from work, quick exchanges about meetings and deadlines, nothing unusual. But then I saw it, a message from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you again. I'll be free after 6. I felt the breath leave my body. The air in the room seemed to thin, and my heart pounded in my ears. I stared at the message, the words not quite registering at first. I blinked, trying to shake off the disbelief. Who is this? Why would he be texting someone like this? My mind raced as I quickly opened the conversation thread. Just a quick glance. I told myself it was nothing. I was being paranoid. It wasn't nothing. I saw the name on the screen first. Sarah. It said, Sarah. I knew as Sarah. She was one of his coworkers. She was friendly, always laughing, always making small talk with me at office parties. But why was she texting him so late? And why was he ignoring the message? I stared at it, my stomach tightening. "It's nothing," I told myself. "You're overreacting." But then another message popped up. "I miss you." My heart skipped. I swear, I froze right there, my hand hovering over the phone. It was like a fog rolled in, and I couldn't think. My thoughts were moving faster than I could keep up. My breath quickened. No, this can't be happening. I shouldn't have opened it. I should have put the phone back, acted like I never saw it. But I didn't. I opened it. "Can't wait to see you again." I'll be free after 6. The words punched me in the gut. I felt dizzy. That feeling of disbelief, the kind you get when something is so wrong. But your mind won't quite let you process it. I needed to calm down. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe they were just friends. Right. Maybe I was reading too much into this. But no, I couldn't stop reading. I kept scrolling, like I couldn't control myself. More messages. Same here. Can't stop thinking about you. I pulled away from the phone, my head spinning. I stood there for a moment, trying to breathe. It's not real. It's just a misunderstanding. There's gotta be an explanation. But I knew, I could feel it deep in my bones. This wasn't innocent. This was something else that my mind screamed at me to confront him, to throw the phone at him and demand the truth. But I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were made of stone. What if I was wrong? What if I was just overthinking this, letting my insecurities take control? I couldn't go there. Not yet. Not until I had proof. I looked at the phone again, and for a second, I almost called out to him. But I couldn't face him with this yet. Not without knowing for sure. Then the guilt hit me. Was I invading his privacy? Was it wrong to look through his phone? I felt nauseous, but I couldn't stop now. I couldn't pretend I didn't see it. I quickly closed the messages and placed the phone back on the couch. I went to the kitchen, breathing heavily, trying to calm myself down. I couldn't think straight. I grabbed a glass of water and sat down at the table, my mind racing. Why hadn't he told me about this? Why hadn't he mentioned Sarah more often? Why was she texting him like this? All these questions, none of them with answers. The air felt thicker now, like it was suffocating me. I tried to push it down, tried to pretend nothing was wrong. But I couldn't. Not after what I had seen that when he walked in. I barely looked up at him. He greeted me, as usual, a simple hey. How's it going? His voice sounded normal, calm, unaffected. I hated it. I hated how normal he sounded. How could he be so casual? I tried to act like everything was fine, but I felt the tension building inside me. What do I do now? Do I confront him? Do I wait for more proof? I didn't know. He sat down next to me, his hand brushing against mine. I pulled away instinctively. What's wrong? He asked, frowning. I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't know how to look him in the eye and tell him that everything felt wrong, that I had seen things that I couldn't unsee. I'm just tired, I said, my voice strained. Lie. He nodded, not questioning me further. But I could feel the gap between us widening. The space between us was growing, and neither of us was doing anything to close it. I'm gonna head to bed, I said, standing up. Okay, I'll be up in a bit, he replied, looking at his phone. I forced a smile and walked away. As I climbed into bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do now? Was I going to confront him? Or was I just going to sit here and wait for the truth to explode in my face? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't sure I even wanted to know the whole truth. I don't know how I managed to keep it together when I first confronted him. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding in my chest. But I had to do it. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't live in this suffocating space of doubt. I had seen the messages. I knew the truth. I waited until he was settled, sitting on the couch with a beer in hand, flipping through some sports game on TV. I stood at the doorway, trying to gather my thoughts, my voice. The silence between us felt too heavy, too obvious. Hey, I said, my voice sounding weaker than I wanted. I hated how unsure I sounded. He glanced up, offering that usual half smile. But his eyes were guarded. What's up? I didn't sit down. I couldn't. The thought of being near him, with the weight of what I knew pressing down, made me feel like I might collapse. We need to talk. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. UHO, what's this about? I could barely stand to look at him, but I forced myself to look at his face. Look at the man who swore to love you forever. The man who's lying to your face now. Who's Sarah? I asked, my voice trembling despite my attempt to sound calm. His face froze. And for a moment, I thought maybe he didn't hear me. Then he laughed nervous, an easy laugh that made my blood run cold. Sir, what do you mean? You're still hung up on her. She's just a coworker. Babe. Double quotes liar. I stepped closer. Then why were you texting her like that? I pulled the phone from my pocket, showing him the screenshots I'd saved. Why were you telling her you miss her? Why did she say she can't wait to see you again? His eyes flicked to the screen, and for a split second, I saw guilt flash across his face. But then he covered it up with a forced chuckle. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's nothing. You're reading too much into it. I felt the anger bubble up, hot and bitter. You're calling me paranoid. That's what this is. You think I'm crazy for asking you about it. My hands clenched at my sides. You're lying to me, to us. Do you really think I'm that stupid? He stood up suddenly, pacing a few steps. Listen, this marriage, it's been rough for a while, okay? You don't get it, do you? We've been drifting apart. I'm not the only one who's been checked out. You've been so distant lately. It's been hard for me, too. I tried. But I guess I wasn't good enough. You don't even see me anymore. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was turning this on me, shifting the blame. You're actually blaming me for this, for your affair. Are you serious? He was pacing now, his voice rising with every word. It's not an affair. It was a mistake. She means nothing to me. She's just someone I talked to, someone I needed to talk to because you and I. He stopped abruptly and ran a hand through his hair. We just weren't working. We haven't been working for a long time. My head was spinning. This couldn't be real. He was making it sound like my fault. I couldn't keep it in anymore. You know what? You're right. I spat, feeling the tears start to sting. We haven't been working for a long time because you've been lying, sneaking around, pretending everything was fine. While I'm here thinking we're still together, I've been here, waiting for you, loving you, and you've been with her. His face hardened. I'm not proud of what I did, okay? I fucked up. But I don't think you get how hard it's been for me, either. I've been trying, and you've been so cold. What did you expect me to do? Just sit here and pretend like everything's fine, like you're still in love with me? I recoiled, the words hitting me like a slap. You cheated on me, and now you're saying it's my fault. I laughed bitterly, though it felt more like a sob. You're unbelievable. He threw his hands up. It's not like that. I was trying to talk to you, but you wouldn't listen. You've been so wrapped up in your own world. He cut himself off, clearly frustrated. You don't understand what it was like for me. I needed to feel wanted, needed to feel seen. I could barely speak. I was choking on everything I wanted to say. The words caught in my throat, angry and broken. So, that's it. You just needed to feel seen? Is that what you're telling me? You couldn't talk to me, your wife, about it? You just decided to get into bed with someone else, and now it's all about your needs. Stop making this worse. He snapped. I don't need a lecture. I already know I fucked up. But I'm not some villain in this. I tried to talk to you. We've both been distant for so long. You just didn't want to see it. I stared at him, the hurt turning into a rage I didn't know I had inside me. My voice was trembling. But I didn't care. You think I didn't notice. You think I didn't feel you pulling away. Of course I noticed. But I trusted you. I thought we were enough. I took a step back, tears finally slipping down my face. I thought I knew you. But now I don't even know who the hell you are. His expression softened for a moment, and he stepped toward me. But I backed away. Please, don't, I whispered. I don't want your pity. I don't want your apologies. I can't. He looked at me with something that almost seemed like regret. I'm sorry, I didn't want to hurt you. But I did. I was stupid. I know that. But I don't know how to fix this. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. His apology meant nothing now. What was there to fix? How could I ever trust him? Again, he had taken everything from me, my love, my trust, my sense of who we were. I shook my head, feeling the weight of everything we'd built collapsing around me. I don't know if I can do this anymore, I whispered, barely able to say the words. I don't even know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can ever be enough for you. His face crumpled as he took another step forward. Please, don't say that. But I had to face it. I wasn't enough for him anymore. And no amount of apologies would fix the dot. I turned and walked away, my heart in my throat. The day after the confrontation, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. My body was heavy, as though I'd spent the whole night fighting some invisible battle. I hadn't even realized when I'd fallen asleep. But there I was wrapped in the tangled sheets, my head pounding, my eyes swollen from crying. I hadn't slept well. But who could blame me? How do you sleep after something like that? I rolled over, reaching for my phone on the nightstand, just out of habit. It was the first thing I did now, checking the screen to see if there was any sign of him, any new message, any apology. But there was nothing, just the usual notifications, and Sarah's name kept flashing in my mind, haunting me. I couldn't stop myself from opening his texts again. I had promised myself I wouldn't. I had told myself I wouldn't go down that road, wouldn't invade his privacy like that again. But I did. I needed to know. I had to know. My fingers hovered over the screen, a pit forming in my stomach. But I couldn't resist. I read the same damn messages again. The ones where he told her how much he missed her, how they couldn't wait to see each other. My heart was a war zone. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was just overreacting, that it wasn't that serious. But the more I read, the more I realize just how deep the betrayal ran. What am I supposed to do now? Are you really going to stay in this? I asked myself aloud. The question lingered in the silence of the room. It sounded stupid, almost desperate. How could I stay? How could I look at him, knowing he'd been with someone else? A knock on the door startled me. I quickly locked the phone and shoved it in my pocket before answering. It was my mom, standing there with a cup of coffee in her hand, like nothing had changed. Morning, she said, stepping inside without waiting for a reply. You okay? I forced a smile, though it felt fake even to my own face. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a lot on my mind. She sat down on the bed next to me, studying me closely. Her eyes softened as she placed the coffee on the nightstand. You don't look fine. I couldn't even meet her eyes. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to scream and ask why he'd done this, why he betrayed me like this. But I couldn't. I just couldn't get the words out. Mom, I started. But my voice cracked. I stopped myself. Taking a deep breath. It's complicated. She raised an eyebrow. Complicated? You don't look like you're handling this very well. Honey, I blinked rapidly, feeling the tears well up again. Why couldn't I just be strong? Why did I have to fall apart like this? I don't know what to do anymore, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Her hand brushed mine. You don't have to do anything right now. Just take it one day at a time, all right? You'll figure it out. But if you need to talk, I'm here. I nodded. But it didn't help. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to admit what I had already discovered. It felt like a betrayal in itself, telling someone else about what he'd done. But she was right about one thing. I didn't know what to do. I tried to convince myself I was still holding it together, that this was just a phase, that maybe I could let it go and just forgive him. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Maybe he was right. Maybe we'd just drifted apart. Maybe I was the one who was too distant. But every time I tried to tell myself that, I thought of Sarah, the texts, the way he looked when I confronted him, like he was so sure of himself, like it didn't even matter to him that I was falling apart right in front of him. It didn't help when I tried to reach out to friends either. Every time I texted them or talked to them, they asked the same thing. Have you confronted him yet? What's going on with you guys? I wanted to tell them. I wanted to scream at them and tell them everything. But then I'd remember how embarrassed I'd feel if they knew the full truth. I didn't want to admit that I had been the fool, trusting him all this time while he was doing this behind my back. I'd sent my best friend a message earlier that day, trying to sound casual. Me, just a rough patch, but everything's fine. Her, yeah, right. You don't sound fine at all. What's going on? I stared at her message for a long time, my fingers frozen over the screen. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to vent and cry on her shoulder, but I couldn't. Not yet. I slid my phone across the table and closed my eyes, trying to breathe. Later, when I was alone again, I found myself checking his phone again. What is wrong with me? I hated myself for doing it, but I had to know. I had to. The doubts were eating me alive. I found more messages. A couple of voicemails from Sarah. Why did I even listen to them? Her voice, soft and sultry, made me sick to my stomach. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. How was I supposed to live like this? What was I even doing? I couldn't stop this feeling of being completely destroyed, completely torn apart. Was I even enough for him anymore? Did he ever really love me? Or was it all just a lie? I curled into the corner of the couch, feeling exhausted. My body felt heavy. I couldn't stop crying. It felt like there was a part of me that had just broken, something I couldn't fix. He came home late that night, like he always did. And I didn't even bother to greet him. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if he had something to say, or an excuse, or whatever the hell he was going to try to sell me. Are you still angry? He asked, his voice tired, like this was just another argument to him. I didn't answer. What was the point? What was the point in talking to someone who was so far gone? You're making this harder than it has to be, he added, trying to close the gap between us. Harder. This wasn't about making it easier for him. It was about my heart, my trust, my entire life shattering into pieces because of him. I don't know if I can do this anymore, I said quietly, almost to myself. But I knew he heard me. He didn't reply right away. He stood there, silent, and for a moment, I thought he might say something that would make it all better, something to fix everything. But he did in single quotes he just walked away. And I realized, in that moment, I had nothing left to give him. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I could even want to fix this anymore. I never thought I'd be here, trying to pick up the shattered pieces of my life. I thought we were strong, that nothing could break us. But here I was, on my own, fumbling through the rubble of everything I once believed in. The hardest part was feeling so damn lost. The first few days after the confrontation, I barely left the house. I didn't want to face the world. I didn't want to deal with the looks, the questions, or the expectations. All I could think about was him. I couldn't escape the image of his face when he admitted everything, and yet I still couldn't figure out if I wanted to stay or leave. But then something shifted. Maybe it was the exhaustion, the constant weighing of the same questions in my head. What now? I couldn't live in this emotional limbo forever. I needed to feel like I had control again. I called Emma that afternoon. She was the one person I knew I could turn to. No judgment, just support. Hey, how are you? Her voice on the other end was gentle, like she was testing the waters. I sighed. I don't know, Em. I feel like I'm losing myself. Yeah, I get that, she said softly. But you've always been strong. You'll figure this out. I wasn't so sure anymore. I hadn't felt strong in a long time. I'd felt like a fool, betrayed, useless, not even knowing who I was anymore. But I didn't say that to her. Instead, I forced out a half laugh. I don't know if I want to be strong. I'm just so tired. Then don't try to be, she said, no hesitation in her voice. You don't need to have it all together right now, but you do need to figure out what's best for you, not for him, for you. That's when I realized I had been living for us, for him, for years, I'd built my whole world around the idea of our life together. But what about me? What about my own happiness? Did I even know what that was anymore? The next day, I made an appointment, therapy. It wasn't easy to admit, but it felt like the only way out of this haze. I couldn't fix this on my own. I needed to talk to someone. Someone who could help me untangle this mess of emotions. When I walked into the therapist's office, I wasn't sure what I expected. She was calm, warm, the kind of person who made you feel like everything was going to be okay, even when you didn't believe it yourself. "So, what brings you here today?" she asked. Sitting across from me, her eyes were kind but direct, like she wasn't going to let me hide. I hesitated, unsure of where to start. "My marriage. I don't know if it's worth saving." Her brow furrowed slightly, but she didn't interrupt. "Tell me more." So I did. I told her about the messages, about the betrayal, about how I'd been living in a fog for weeks. I told her how I didn't know who I could trust anymore, how I felt like I was drowning, and I just don't know if I can forgive him, I added, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "Do you want to forgive him?" she asked, her voice soft. I blinked at her, caught off guard by the question. "I don't know. Part of me just wants to move on, but I'm so scared. What if I'm making the wrong decision? What if I leave and then regret it?" "Regret is part of the process," she said, nodding slowly. "But so is healing. It's not about doing the right thing, it's about doing what's right for you. You don't have to make any decisions today, but you do need to start focusing on yourself." I thought about that for a long time after the session. Focusing on myself. It felt so foreign, so selfish in a way I wasn't used to. But I also knew she was right. I couldn't keep waiting for him to fix it. I couldn't keep giving him the power to decide my worth. That evening, I went out with Emma for dinner. I wasn't sure if I was ready for a full social night, but she insisted, so I went. She'd been pushing me to reconnect with the world, to not isolate myself in this self-imposed prison. "How's the therapy going?" she asked between bites of her salad, her eyes scanning my face for any sign of change. "It's good," I said, stirring my drink absently. "She's making me think about what I really want. What's best for me?" Emma smiled softly. "That's a start." I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. The truth was, I was so tired. I was so tired of wondering, of second-guessing myself. I wanted to be free from this, free from the constant spiral of doubt. "But how? I don't know if I can ever trust him again," I said, almost to myself. "I keep thinking about everything, how he looked when he apologized, how he promised it would never happen again. But he broke me. I don't know if I can let that go." Emma leaned forward, her eyes serious. "You don't have to forgive him. You don't have to fix everything right away. But you do need to ask yourself if this is the life you want. Do you want to stay? Or do you want to walk away?" I froze. Her words like a punch to the gut. Walk away? Was that even an option? Could I really leave everything behind? All those years together, all the memories, was it worth throwing it all away? But then, I remembered the way he looked when he came home last night. The empty, hollow apology that didn't feel like anything at all. The realization hit me with sudden clarity. Maybe I had already been walking away for a while. Maybe, in some way, the trust had already been shattered beyond repair. "I don't know," I said quietly. My voice raw. "I just need to know if it's still worth fighting for." Emma reached across the table and took my hand. "That's something only you can decide." And she was right. I could sit here and cry, and I could keep pretending things would magically get better, or I could start making a choice for myself, for my future. I didn't have to have all the answers, but I did need to take control of my own life again. I stared at my reflection in the glass of water, the question echoing in my mind. What do I want? I didn't know yet, but I would find out. I don't know exactly when it happened, but something in me snapped. Maybe it was when I realized I had been living in the shadow of someone else's choices for too long. Maybe it was the moment I realized I wasn't just hurting anymore, I was angry. And anger, it was the first thing that made me feel something other than despair. I had spent weeks asking myself if I could ever forgive him. But I realized I don't have to forgive him. I don't have to fix this. For the first time in months, I felt like I had a choice. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going to let him walk all over me anymore. He had broken my trust, shattered the life I thought we were building, and in return, all I had was the remnants of myself that I was trying to put back together. It started small, almost like a whisper in the back of my mind, the idea that I could be in control of my own life, that I could start doing things for me without considering him, without worrying about what he thought. I spent the next few days thinking about what I wanted, really thinking about it. Did I want to keep playing this game with him, waiting for him to change while my heart kept getting trampled? Or was it time to take my life back? I picked up the phone and called Emma. I needed to hear someone else's voice, to feel like I wasn't completely alone in this. "Hey, how are you?" she answered, her voice a little too bright, as if she knew something was off. "Not good, I admitted. "I'm done feeling like I'm walking on eggshells in my own house." I could almost hear her nodding on the other end. "What are you going to do about it?" I took a deep breath. I'm done. I'm done being afraid to confront him, to confront everything." "Wait, what are you saying?" she asked, her voice dropping slightly. "Are you saying you're going to leave him?" I paused, the weight of her words hanging between us. Leave him. It felt strange, like a word I'd never considered. But now it was all I could think about. "I don't know," I replied, my voice shaking a little. "But I'm not going to sit here and wait for him to change. I've been giving him every chance. Now I'm taking control. It's time to take my power back." Emma was quiet for a moment before she spoke, her voice softer now. "I'm proud of you. You deserve better." I hung up the phone and stared out the window for a long time, my thoughts racing. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me, like a dam had broken inside me and I could finally breathe. The weight was lifting, even if just a little. The next day, I made a decision. I had been avoiding it for weeks, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to confront the woman he had betrayed me with. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I needed answers. Maybe I just needed to see if she was the type of person I thought she was. But I had to know. I found her number through a mutual contact at work. It took everything in me to dial it. The ringing felt endless. "Hello." Her voice was too cheerful, too casual, and it made my blood boil. "This is protagonist's name," I said, forcing the words out. "We need to talk." The silence on the other end was deafening. "About what?" she finally asked, her tone shifting, like she already knew. "About you and my husband," I said, the words sharp in my mouth. "I know what you've been doing, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend it didn't happen." She exhaled. "Listen, I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to get messy." "But messy?" I interrupted, my anger rising again. "You slept with my husband. You betrayed me. And now you want to call it messy?" There was a long pause. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said again. But this time, I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "It just happened. You don't get to use that excuse." I snapped. "What you did isn't a mistake. It's a choice. And now I have to deal with it. Do you understand what you've done?" She didn't respond right away, and I almost felt a flicker of satisfaction. She didn't have anything to say. She knew. Finally, she spoke, quieter now. "I'm sorry, I didn't know how to fix this, but I know it was wrong." I laughed bitterly. "Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back the life I thought I had." The call ended, and I stood there for a moment, staring at the phone. I wasn't sure what I had expected. Some sort of grand apology, some kind of closure, but I didn't get it. What I got was the same thing I had been getting all along, empty words. I didn't feel better. I felt tired, exhausted, but for some reason, I also felt stronger. I wasn't doing this for anyone else anymore. I was doing it for me, and that was the first step in taking control back. Later that day, I finally did something I had been avoiding for far too long. I sat down with him. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but I knew it had to happen. I couldn't keep living like this, trapped in this endless cycle of doubt and pain. He looked at me, a nervous edge to his expression. Are we really doing this now? Yeah, I said, my voice steady, but my heart was racing. We are, because I need to know where we go from here. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. I'm not going to keep lying to myself. His face softened. But it didn't matter anymore. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, his voice pleading. I made a mistake. You chose her, I replied, cutting him off. And that's something I can never forget. Maybe I can forgive, but I can't stay in this. I'm not going to keep begging you to change when I'm the one who needs to change. There was a long silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was the one in the wrong. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I wasn't waiting for his validation or his approval. I was done. I think we need to talk about what comes next, I said, my voice finally steady. The power had shifted. The truth wasn't just about what he had done anymore. It was about me finding the strength to take control of my own future. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving in the right direction. I didn't expect it to feel like this. I didn't expect the words to sting, or the disappointment to hit me so hard when I saw her standing there in front of me, like some character out of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. It felt surreal, seeing the woman who had helped destroy everything I'd thought was real. I found her number again, this time not to check, but to confront. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe some sort of explanation that would make sense of everything. Maybe I just needed to understand why her, why this betrayal had to happen. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I had to do it. When the phone rang, I could hear the hesitation in her voice when she answered. Hello, are you Sarah? My voice was colder than I wanted it to be. I didn't care. I wasn't calling her to be nice. Yes, she paused, sensing something wasn't right. Who is this? I'm protagonist's name. I think you know who I am. There was silence on the other end. Then, finally, she spoke. Oh, this isn't what you think. I clenched my teeth. You don't get to tell me what I think. You've already done enough of that. I didn't care if I sounded harsh. This wasn't about politeness. This was about facing what she had done. I never meant for it to go this far, she said, her voice wavering now, just a bit. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed, bitter and loud. You didn't want to hurt me, really? Because, from where I'm standing, it sure looks like you enjoyed it. You knew what you were doing. You knew exactly what this would do. I didn't think of it like that, she said, her voice quieter now. It just happened. I was lonely, and things weren't going well with you too, and don't you dare blame me for what you did, I interrupted. Don't make this about how you felt. You made a choice. You knew he was married. You knew the damage it would cause. But you went ahead and did it anyway. She was quiet for a moment, and I could feel her discomfort through the phone. It was like I had caught her in something too real, too raw for her to hide behind her excuses. I didn't want to hurt you, okay? Her voice cracked. I never thought about it like this. She trailed off, the guilt creeping into her tone. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I stared at the phone, fighting back the urge to scream. You don't get to apologize now. You don't get to walk away from this with your guilt and say it wasn't supposed to be like this. It already is like this. And now I'm dealing with the mess you created. She fell silent again. The weight of everything settled between us like a wall I couldn't climb. I felt the ache of it, how it stung. How the betrayal was so much worse coming from someone I didn't even know, someone who had no reason to care about me but still decided to ruin me. I'm sorry, she whispered, barely audible now. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I closed my eyes. I wasn't even sure why I had called. I didn't expect closure. Didn't expect her to change anything. But I needed to hear her say it. I needed her to admit the truth. You can't just be sorry, Sarah, I said, my voice raw with emotion. You can't just apologize and expect me to move on. Do you understand that? I've spent every day since finding out, wondering how someone could do this to me. I've tried to find a way to forgive. But you are the one who makes it impossible. I never meant for this to be your problem, she said quietly, almost to herself. But it was my problem. It was my life that had been ripped apart. It was my trust, my sense of self, my relationship with the man I thought I knew, the man who let me down in ways I never thought possible. And yet, there she was, apologizing like her words would fix any of it. I don't know what you want from me, she said, her voice filled with confusion now. I've said I'm sorry. What more do you need? I didn't have an answer for her, because I wasn't sure what I needed. I wasn't sure if I needed her apology or her to just admit how deep the lies went. Maybe I just wanted to hear that she knew what she'd done, that she understood the depth of her actions, even if it didn't make a difference in the end. I want you to know what you've done, I said slowly. And I want you to know that I will never forget it. I'll never forget how you tore apart everything I thought I had. The silence on the other end felt thick, and for a moment, I thought maybe she understood. Maybe she finally got it. I've already lost, I whispered. And so have you. That was the thing, wasn't it? We were both broken. We were both wrecked by this. Her choices had ruined more than just my marriage, they had destroyed her too. I could hear it in her voice, the way she kept apologizing, but had nothing else to give. Because, in the end, the affair partner never wins. It's always a hollow victory, one that leaves everyone worse off than before. I hung up the phone without saying another word. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter. Something had shifted. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't trying to play the part of the victim. I had been hurt, yes, but I was also learning how to stand in the rubble and reclaim what was left of me. I didn't need her forgiveness. I didn't need her to fix anything. But for the first time since all this started, I realized I didn't need him either. It was time to take back control for me and for the life I still had to rebuild. I didn't expect things to unfold like this, but I also didn't expect to feel so satisfied. I've heard people say that karma's a bitch, but I never really understood what that meant until now. Maybe it's not about watching someone suffer. Maybe it's about seeing the consequences of their actions, seeing them face the reality of what they've done. And it's not about revenge, at least not for me anymore. It's about justice. I had to take steps to make sure the truth was out. For too long, I had been hiding in the shadows of this relationship, pretending everything was okay, giving him chance after chance to change. But no more. I was done with hiding, done with letting him control the narrative. So I called my family, told them everything. I couldn't let him keep lying to them either. I called my mom first. I had thought about it for days before dialing her number, but there was no way around it. I couldn't keep pretending. I needed her to know the truth. And more importantly, I needed to hear her support. Mom, I said when she picked up, my voice shaking but firm. I need to tell you something. What's going on? Honey, she sounded worried, like she could already sense something was wrong. I found out about him and Sarah. I whispered, the affair, it's been going on for months. There was a pause on the other end, and I felt my heart start to race. Are you sure? She asked, her voice quiet. I'm sure, I said, fighting the urge to break down. I've seen the messages. I've seen everything. He's been lying to me, and I don't know how to fix this. Oh, sweetheart, her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I didn't want this. I never thought this would happen. But it's real now, and I need you to know. I can't hide it anymore. There was another long pause. But then she said something that stopped my heart for a moment. You don't have to fix it. You don't owe him anything. It was like the weight of the world lifted off me. Even just a little, I wasn't alone in this, and that meant everything. After that, I reached out to my friends. It wasn't easy. They all knew about him and me, knew the perfect life I had been selling to the world. But I couldn't keep pretending with them either. When Emma picked up the phone, she didn't waste time with pleasantries. What happened? She asked, already sensing something was wrong. He cheated, I said, my voice shaking even though I thought I was done crying over this. He's been with her for months, and I don't know what to do. I heard her sigh deeply on the other, and I'm sorry. I wish I could have been there for you sooner. I'm so mad at him. I really thought. Well, I thought you two had something good. We did, I said, my voice breaking again. I thought we did, too. I told her everything. The texts, the lies, the pain, and she was there for me every step of the way. It was like I was starting to unburden myself, little by little. With every person I told, with every truth I shared. The consequences started to come for him faster than I thought. He came home late the next night, but he didn't expect me to confront him like I did. You told them, didn't you? He said, the frustration in his voice already obvious. He was trying to stay calm, trying to act like none of this bothered him, but I saw it, the cracks, the way his hands trembled when he reached for his keys. I told them everything, I said, standing in front of him. You don't get to lie anymore. You don't get to hide behind this for weight. His face twisted, and for the first time since all this started, I didn't feel afraid of his anger. I didn't feel small. I felt strong. Why would you do that? He asked, his voice sharp. Why would you tell them? You've already made your point. I didn't do it for you, I said, my voice steady. I did it for me, because I'm not going to keep hiding who you are. Not anymore. I never meant for any of this to happen, he said, his voice quieter now. It was a mistake. No, I said, shaking my head. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, and you don't get to take it back now. I walked away then, leaving him standing there, his eyes full of frustration, anger, and something else, regret, maybe. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. The next day, things started to unravel faster than I expected. His boss called, saying there were some complaints about his work performance, about his attitude. It was just the beginning of the fallout. His co-workers started questioning him, whispering about what had happened, and the more I saw him crumble, the more I realized that this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about seeing him suffer. It was about seeing the consequences of his actions. It was about watching him face the reality of what he'd done to me. And that was enough. His reputation at work started to deteriorate. Friends who had once been close to him started pulling away. His relationships were starting to fray at the edges, just like ours had. I didn't want him to lose everything, but it was hard to feel sympathy for him when I had been living in the wreckage of what he'd done. Is this what you wanted? He asked me one night, after everything had started falling apart. Do you feel better now? I stared at him, my chest tightening. I don't feel anything right now. I'm just done. The next few weeks were a blur. I didn't focus on him or what was happening to him. I focused on me. I started looking at my life through new eyes. I wasn't going to stay stuck in this place, in this marriage that had been built on lies. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of hope. Hope for something better. For me, I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to be the one who got back at him. I didn't want to fight for something that was already broken. What I wanted was peace. What I wanted was to heal, and that meant accepting that the best way forward wasn't through punishment, it was through freedom. I wasn't sure what would come next, but I knew one thing. I was done letting someone else's actions control my life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. It's funny, in a way, how time can make you see things differently. A few months ago, I couldn't even imagine a day where I'd feel like I was in control again, where I wouldn't be haunted by the betrayal, by the memories of him with her. But here I was, standing in my kitchen, breathing deeply, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I was living again. I spent the last few weeks in therapy, diving deep into my emotions, piecing together what was left of me after everything he'd taken, and slowly, bit by bit, I started to realize that I wasn't defined by his lies. I wasn't defined by the pain he caused. That was his story, not mine. The phone rang, and I knew it was him before I even looked. I had ignored his calls for days, weeks even. He had been trying to reach me, to talk, to apologize. I'd listened to his voicemails, the ones where he begged me to come back, where he said he was sorry over and over again like it would somehow fix everything. But I wasn't that person anymore. I let the phone ring, let it go straight to voicemail. There was nothing left for us to say. A few days earlier, my best friend Emma had called. So, what now? She asked, her voice full of that familiar concern. Are you going to give him another shot? I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I had been thinking about it. What if I could forgive him? What if I could move past the pain and try again? Not for him, but for me, to prove I was strong enough to handle it. But then I remembered the conversations, the lies, the way he looked at me when he apologized, like he wasn't really sorry, just sorry he'd been caught. And I realized that no matter how badly I wanted things to go back to normal, they never could. No, Em, I said, my voice firm, a sense of peace flooding through me. I'm done. Done? She asked, a little surprised, but I could hear the relief in her voice. Done? I repeated. I can't keep holding on to something that's already broken. I've tried, and it's not even about him anymore. It's about me, finally seeing that I deserve more than this. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Emma spoke. You're stronger than you know, and I'm proud of you. I closed my eyes, feeling a lump rise in my throat. I never thought I'd hear those words. I didn't think I'd ever feel that way. Strong, Paul, like I could breathe again. The days that followed were easier than I expected. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for some sign that things could be fixed. I stopped worrying about what he was doing, who he was with, and I started focusing on what I needed. One morning, I woke up and made a decision. I called the lawyer. I hadn't even thought about it until that point, but it felt right. I wasn't going to wait for him to do anything. I was taking control of my life. Hi, it's protagonist's name, I said, feeling a rush of adrenaline in my chest. I want to file for divorce. The lawyer's voice was calm and understanding. Okay, we can start the process. I'll send you the papers. I hadn't expected the rush of relief that came with those words. It wasn't bitterness or anger, just the satisfaction of knowing that I wasn't chained to him anymore, that I could move on. It wasn't easy. There were still moments where I would feel the weight of the past creeping back in, and I'd catch myself thinking about him, about us, about how we used to be. But those thoughts didn't define me anymore. They didn't control me. The hardest part, I think, was letting go of the idea of what we could have been, the future I thought we would share, the dreams I had of growing old together. They all felt so unreal now, like they belonged to someone else's life. But as time went on, I realized something. Those dreams were never mine to begin with. They were built on a foundation of lies. And now I had the chance to build something new, something just for me. I was out with Emma one evening when I got the message. It wasn't from him, not directly, but it was his name. And for a split second, I hesitated before opening it. My heart pounded in my chest. But this time, there was no fear, no anxiety. It was a short message, a simple one. I'm sorry. I'll always regret what I did. I hope you find happiness. I stared at the screen for a long time. There it was, the final word from him, his last attempt to gain closure. But it didn't make me feel sad. It didn't even make me angry. I just felt empty. Like there was no more space in me for him, no more room for his apologies, for his guilt. It was over, and that was the best thing I could have hoped for. I set my phone down and looked at Emma. He sent me a message. I said, my voice calm. She raised an eyebrow. What did he say? That he's sorry? That he regrets it? I paused, taking a deep breath. And I'm done. She smiled. That proud, knowing smile. You're done? I nodded, feeling the weight of it. I wasn't just done with him. I was done with the past, the lies, the heartache, the uncertainty. I was moving on, and it felt like freedom. Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror, looking at myself. I looked different, stronger, more alive. For the first time in months, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't holding onto the past. I was free. It didn't matter what happened to him anymore. What mattered was that I was still here, still standing, still breathing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally starting to live again. The pain would always be there, a scar I carry with me, but it didn't control me. And that, more than anything, was my closure. It wasn't about forgetting or forgiving. It was about moving on. It was about finding my own happiness, free from the past, and finally stepping into a future that was mine. And that future, it looked bright. I never thought it would come to this, but here I am, standing at the edge of everything I once knew, looking back with a mixture of regret and relief. The past few months have been a whirlwind full of pain, anger, moments of doubt, but also growth. I can't deny that what happened changed me. I've spent so much time wondering what I could have done differently, questioning where things went wrong. But I've realized something. I didn't do anything wrong. He did. And no matter how much I tried to convince myself otherwise, no matter how many times I asked myself what I could have fixed, the truth is that I can't fix him. I can't make him be who I thought he was. It's funny. In a way, I used to think love was about building something together, about a partnership where both people were invested in each other. But now, I see it differently. Love isn't about keeping someone in your life just because you're scared to be alone. It's about trust, respect, and when those things are gone, so is the love. I saw him today. I didn't want to. I didn't even plan on it, but he showed up at the door like he had something to say. He looked different, tired, worn out. His eyes were downcast, avoiding mine. I had no words for him, but I couldn't help it. My heart twisted in my chest. The memories came flooding back, of us, of what we could have been. But then I remembered the betrayal. I remembered the lies, and I knew deep down that I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the person who would beg for something that was already broken. Why are you here? I asked, my voice steady, even though every part of me wanted to scream. He hesitated, like he didn't know how to start. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I know I've already said it, but I don't think I've ever really said it. I crossed my arms. You think that fixes it? That you can apologize and everything will be fine? That's not how this works. I know, he said quietly. I know I can't fix this, but I'm asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to make it right. I almost laughed. Make it right? How can you make it right? You've already destroyed everything. Do you think a sorry is going to undo all of that? Do you think you can just come here and fix this with a few words? He took a step closer, but I didn't move. I know I can't fix it, he repeated, but I want to try. I want you to know how much I regret what I did. I don't care about your regrets anymore. I said, my voice firmer now. Regret doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change how you made me feel, how you broke my trust. There was a long silence. The weight of everything we'd been through hung in the air between us. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time, I saw the remorse in his eyes, real, raw. But it didn't matter. I can't keep doing this, I said, my voice low. I can't keep holding on to something that's already gone. Please, he said, his voice almost pleading. Just one more chance. I'll prove to you that I'm not that person. I'll make it up to you. You've had your chances, I said, feeling the finality in my words. And I can't keep pretending that this is okay. I don't want you in my life anymore. His face crumbled as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're just going to walk away from everything we had. I stared at him, feeling the calmness settle over me. I'm walking away from the lies, from the hurt, and I'm walking away from you. His eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place: hurt, guilt, maybe even a little bit of fear, but I didn't care anymore. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, my voice finally breaking the silence. But I'm not the one who's going to give it to you. I watched as he turned and walked away, his step slow, as though he still couldn't understand what had just happened. But I knew he would never understand. He would never truly grasp how deep his betrayal ran. But that didn't matter to me anymore. What mattered was that I was walking away, and, for the first time in ages, I didn't feel a single ounce of guilt. I felt free. As I closed the door behind him, I leaned against it, taking a deep breath. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I had taken back control of my life. I had learned that I wasn't defined by someone else's choices, by someone else's mistakes. I wasn't perfect. I had moments of doubt, moments where I missed what we once had, but I wasn't going to let that cloud the truth. I wasn't going to let the pain of betrayal define me. I had come out of this stronger, wiser, and with a newfound understanding of who I was. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. I knew that. I still had a lot of healing to do, and a lot of work to put into rebuilding the trust I'd lost, not just in him, but in myself. But I wasn't afraid anymore, and I realized something as I stood there, looking out the window at the world I had left behind. It wasn't just about moving on. It was about moving forward. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. The love I had once given so freely had been tainted, but it wasn't gone. I still had the capacity to love, to trust, to heal, and now I was going to do it on my terms. I wasn't going to let anyone else's mistakes define me. I had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes you have to break free from what hurts in order to find what you truly deserve. And for the first time in my life, I knew I was worthy of more. So I was going to give it to myself.